Well, I think they just got through what was a very complex vetting process, bidding process. I mean, go through it all, right? And then on top of that, you had a pretty collective collection of potential bidders and interested parties in purchasing the Ottawa Senators. So I think by the time the bank, the lawyers, the league, everyone involved got through all of that, they then whittled down where they thought they needed to be. But this was an exhaustive process. And even though at times it seemed frustrating for the fan base or maybe even media who followed this story, I'm sure towards the end here, there was growing frustration with potentially the Andlauer group, maybe the Kimmel family, all involved, especially those who started to bow out. The league and the bank and the lawyers had to go through the process. They had to. They were on no one's timeline other than doing what was best for the estate of Melnyk and the best for the future of the Ottawa Senators. But as you said, Julia, for me, zero surprise. I felt like Michael Andlauer was, if not the best candidate, the most likely right from day one. And that's based on the long history he has as a minority owner with the Montreal Canadiens, but in that Board of Governors group. And knowing the commissioner's office as well as he does. And he played it the right way. He didn't need the celebrity approach of anyone. He used his expertise and his savvy, right? And wasn't looking for headlines. He wasn't looking for publicity. He and the group of investors that he has and those that, work with him from a legal perspective wanted to stay beneath the radar because they knew in the end that would likely be the best approach.
Yeah, it's funny because we all talked about Ryan Reynolds when he kind of jumped on board, and that was the flavor of the month. And then all of a sudden, Snoop Dogg jumps in, and then we heard that The Weeknd had some interest, and all of a sudden, none of these guys end up with a piece of the pie here. And Michael Andlauer just comes in, ends up winning the bid. I'm curious what you think this new ownership group could mean for the future of Pierre Dorion and DJ Smith in Ottawa.
Yeah, well, it's easy to question the hockey operations group because this is a new boss coming in, right? But nobody knows definitively what the approach of Michael Andlauer and company is going to be. Is he going to take a bit of time to get to know Pierre Dorion, or is he simply going to pull the pin and go with somebody that he believes is ready and he trusts? And that's why, you're getting the ongoing speculation around Steve Staios, who, is employed by the Edmonton Oilers. In fact, he's in British Columbia. They're having scouting meetings in BC. So that's what he's consumed with doing now and will probably stay that way leading up to the draft unless there's a sudden shift here. But we're not going to know that. And, as far as the coaching goes, DJ Smith is a highly respected NHL head coach, and likewise the staff that he has assembled there. But I don't think that Michael Andlauer is going to react out of sequence here. And what I mean by that, I'd be real surprised if he dumps the coaching staff before really taking a hard look at Pierre Dorion and management of the Ottawa Senators. And his plate is full right now. Andlauer, obviously, right? I mean, this has to be a very emotional time for him and for his family. I can guarantee you he is 100% thrilled that all of this is soon going to be behind him once he gets through the meeting with the executive committee and then gets full board approval from the National Hockey League. And then there'll be a time where he can truly assess what he has in hockey operations. The problem is here, we're approaching the end potentially of the Stanley Cup final, right? And then right around the corner is the NHL draft, and then you have free agency. I mean, there's some big things on the NHL calendar that hockey operations headed by Pierre Dorion are going to have to manage here. So I doubt that we see any sort of real significant change before all that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm with you. Would that be a tough change, I suppose, to make at the GM level? But one guy who I thought about today, and mainly because his name's somewhat in the news, looks like Patrick Waugh stepped down from his post in Quebec. I'm curious if that could potentially be a fit. That's pretty close to home for Patty Waugh.
Right. Well, we can't dismiss it, but I wouldn't read too much, Mike, into the timing of the news from the Quebec Rempart today. My understanding is they called that media availability 2-3 days ago. Well, that would not have aligned with the news out of the National Hockey League and confirmation that Michael Andlauer is the successful bidder to buy the Ottawa Senators, right? So it is coincidental, but it's salacious. And, this dates back to our time in Kamloops, Julia, when, I speculated that there was an ownership group that has interest in Patrick Roy potentially as an NHL coach. Don't know that that's Michael Andlauer. I can appreciate how there would be a fit there. I mean, French-Canadian, obviously. You've got a real strong French-Canadian fan base in Ottawa that follow the Ottawa Senators, but I'm not prepared to link any further speculation to that being real. And I think I read a quote not that long ago from Patrick Roy, who established that he has no interest to this point from NHL suitors, meaning that no one has reached out to him to this stage. That could change very quickly, but I think today is more coincidental.